Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Welcome back to the podcast. This week, our guest is Justin Cernitz, who is a founding partner, and Candise, who is the managing partner of Cernitz Law. Welcome, guys.
Thanks so much.
Us.
Thanks so much.
Great.
for having
So,
us.
I'll start out with you, Candise. What made you decide to get into law?
It's funny that you asked that. A lot of people ask me that question, and I always tell them I didn't seek the law. I think the law sought me. I, like a lot of people, once I graduated from college, I really didn't know. I pursued advertising because that's what my sister did, and I always wanted to follow in her footsteps. And then I soon realized, after I had a really, really great internship up in New York, that I had no business being in advertising. I wasn't, really great with the creatives.
Right.
And so, like a lot of people, when you shoot for what you want to do, then you realize that's maybe not the path that I should be taking, what am I going to do next? And so I caught up with a friend that I hadn't spoken to since middle school. She was the first friend that I ever had when I moved to the United States from Taiwan. And she was in law school up in New York. So I always admired and respected her. So I said, okay, well, let's go to law school. And then once I graduated law school and got into my first job, which was at a very big defense firm representing insurance companies, and found the niche of property insurance law, that was it. That was my calling. And so I would like to say the law found me.
Right. And then how about you, Justin?
Mine was a little more traditional. My father is an insurance defense lawyer in New York.
Okay.
And he was actually Avis Rent-A-Car's claims attorney for many years in the 80s and 90s.
Okay.
And I always enjoyed going to work with him, playing on the Xerox machine, going to the cafeteria. They started taking me to court, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. I think I can do this. And he said, great, if you want to be a lawyer, just don't defend the insurance companies. It's a lot more fun to sue them.
Yeah.
So, so at that point, my father always pushed me to go in the opposite direction of what he did during, because he's like, just don't be me. You'll be good otherwise. So
Right.
it was a nice transition, and it's nice to still get the, when we talk cases, and sometimes he has a lot of knowledge. He's been practicing for 40 years. He knows what all the insurance companies do. And granted, I had some experience working on that side as well, but it's always nice to have that resource to kind of talk through a case, because I feel like deep down he's a real plaintiff's lawyer, but he just got stuck being a defense lawyer.
That's funny. So, going through this, that's what kind of got you guys in it. But what still gets you up in the morning, gets you fired up to want to come in and help your clients?
So for me, I always tell people I'm that mad scientist that likes to be behind the scenes. And I get super hyper focused on, the minutia, which can be really, really important. And I think that's something that I don't see a lot in a lot of professionals. But in speaking of law, everybody wants to check the box and go through the motions. And I still get off on finding that, the needle in the haystack, thinking outside of the box, getting that theory that, nobody else has come up with. Because I always tell people the devil's always in the details, and nobody
Right.
wants to spend the time finding the little details. And so that's what gets me up in the morning. Do I love the run-of-the-mill normal cases, even the ones that make me a lot of money? No, yeah, it's great because it pays the bills. But I live for finding that needle in the haystack and coming up with this great theory to try to win the case. So that's what keeps me going.
Great. Justin, how about you?
Me, I just love dealing with clients. I really try to help people, and it gets me up in the morning, and I get psyched up because I know there's certain, judges I may need to convince, or I got to deal with a certain defense attorney. But in all, I just like helping clients. It's always being my thing. I don't like defending the big guy. I just love helping the underdog, and that's always been, who I am. I mean, I was the underdog growing up. People were like, "You're really going to be a lawyer?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to be a lawyer." So you know what? It's a pleasure to help them,
Right.
on a daily basis.
Great. Now, both of you guys kind of, both of you kind of go against the insurance companies, but you have a different focus. Can you talk about, talk about your focus and what, you're saying that you do more property side of things. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yes, well, I exclusively do property insurance law. I spent the first 5 years of my career representing the insurance companies. And so that has given me a lot of insight in the way that I prosecute the cases against the insurance company. And so the myriad of different types of issues or cases that we deal with on the property side is, your standard, if your insurance company doesn't pay you enough, or if the insurance company denies coverage. And sometimes there are really interesting issues that deal with the insurance company and the insurance policy coverage issues. Sometimes dealing with issues involving, the insurance agent, although rarely in that aspect. And sometimes, you get your real nuggets of gold where you're dealing with policy type arguments where the insurance company, didn't do something that they were supposed to do when it came to getting their policies approved, or they didn't even submit it for approval, which is, something that you see a little bit few and far between. But those are the general types of issues that I deal with on the property insurance side.
Right. And then Justin, what about your side of things?
Well, I mean, I also deal with the property, but I also deal with a lot of personal injury as well. And it's, I think personal injury lawyers really get a bad rap that we're ambulance chasers, we're the bottom of the barrel, we're the scum of the earth. But you know what? There are a lot of people that are hurt out there. There's a lot of people that have been wronged by doctors, nursing homes, birth injuries, negligent security that are no longer with us because of someone's negligence.
Right.
And we help them, if they're in pain, they're suffering. And a lot of people just don't realize that that's what it really entails. Personal injury really gets personal because it's different than property in the aspect that there's a fixed cost that's going to cost to fix something. Your roof costs a certain amount. Your plumbing costs a certain amount. Your life, your leg, your brain. There's not a little price tag that you could put on that's fixed. And, we really try to get people what they deserve for their injuries.
Right. Now, in the property, or excuse me, on the personal side there, what are some of the common mistakes that people make when it comes to, they get injured, however it is, and, they want to try to get something from the nursing home or the hospital or whatever. What are some of the common mistakes that they make?
I'll tell you the first most common mistake is that people wait too long. A lot of people will sit there and debate whether or not they should call a lawyer, whether they have a case. But in Florida, at least, you have 4 years to bring a negligence action. But if it's a nursing home or medical malpractice, you only have 2. And a lot of people will call me and they go, about 2.5, 3 years ago, I realized that I think this doctor really screwed up something. I'm like, wow, it sounds like he did. But unfortunately, you're out of luck because there's statutes of limitations that, there's a certain amount of time you can bring something for. And the second most common thing that I do see in personal injury is that, let's say for the common car accident, and let's say it may not be the worst accident in the entire world, but you're feeling hurt, you're feeling achy, you're feeling like something could be wrong, you got to go seek medical treatment immediately. Go get checked out at an urgent care. Go get checked out at an ER quickly, because otherwise, the longer you wait, unfortunately, the insurance company goes, well, obviously, the injury couldn't have been that bad because you waited 4 months to go see a doctor for the first time.
Right.
So if you think something may be wrong, go get it checked out.
Yeah, I think that, just from, growing up and everything else, it's always like, oh, you're okay, you're okay. And sometimes we try to tough it out and get through things. And what you're saying is if you get hurt not only in a car accident, but in a slip and fall or anything else, you need to go get checked out,
Correct.
right away to A, to make sure that you're okay, but then B, to make sure it's on record.
Correct. Because, unfortunately, the insurance companies will use that against you.
Right.
And, you may have been 100% truthful in the fact that, well, I wanted to tough it out, but they always go, well, granted, you wanted to tough it out, but if you were hurting, a reasonable person goes and gets treatment or goes to get checked out. So that's one of the main things I like to tell everybody. Just even if you don't think it's, you're hurt, you go get checked out. And the last thing is call the police. A lot of people forget to call the police because they think it's not so bad or they'll be fine. Or the other guy said, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. And guess what? Whenever guy says, oh, I'll take care of it, 2 days later, what are you talking about? It wasn't my fault. So you can't go that route either.
Right. Now, in that, also situation, so, somebody that the slip and fall, they're in an accident or whatever, they do go get medical treatment. And they, start trying to, everybody always seems to be afraid to submit something to the insurance company because it's like, oh, my rates are going to go up. So kind of, how do you guys handle that? Because again, I'm looking long term. I don't want my rates to go up.
Well, I tell them, have you had a lot of accidents in the past?
Right.
No or yes. If you had a lot of accidents, but here's the thing. If it's not your fault, your rate's likely not going to go up. Mm-hmm. If you're the person that keeps hitting people and then finally you get hit and you have a claim, history of like 4 or 5 accidents, yeah, your insurance is probably likely going to go up. It's the same thing on the property side. People go, well, if I make a claim, is my rate's going to go up? Number one, at least here in Florida, everybody's rates go up anyway.
Right.
Okay, just because of the way it is. But if you're a person that has a roof claim, a plumbing claim, a fire claim, and another bathroom claim, all within 2-3 years, yeah, they're probably going to go up and they're probably going to drop because who wants to insure that?
Right. Now, if I get hurt, I get medical bills, I do all that stuff, and then I'm trying to get reimbursed for that, and the insurance company is pushing back and saying, oh no, that your health insurance should cover that. How? I mean, kind of give me some guidance there.
This is a tough one to answer, mainly because every state has different no-fault laws, meaning no fault is no matter what, at least in Florida, you get $10,000, which is actually not much in the medical world. Mm-hmm. If you are injured, you get $10,000 for medical benefits regardless of fault. In New York, you get $50,000. I think in Michigan, you get $150,000. Okay, so those bills are paid for normally by the insurance company. The bills themselves, they don't really factor into the personal injury payments per se. They see how much treatment you have, but because the insurance companies typically take care of those medical bills because you're entitled to them, whether you're at fault or not. If the provider, meaning like the doctor, is not getting paid by the insurance company, the doctors or the hospitals or the medical clinics or the MRI centers, they'll file their own lawsuits or go to arbitration against the insurance companies to get those bills paid. But they really can't be passed on to the client.
Gotcha. Now, Candise, on more on the property side, what are some of the common cases that you're seeing on that side, and what are some of the mistakes people are making?
A common mistake that people are making, because there's been a big shift in the law in the state of Florida. And so even though we have a statute of limitations of 5 years, because we're suing over a contract. So under the contract, it's a 5-year, although hurricanes, they've kind of carved out an exception of a 3-year statute of limitations. But the problem with that is that now we've just had some bad law against us that came out where, the judges are starting to say, a year and a half or 2 year of a reporting of a loss is considered late notice, and therefore, you lose. So it kind of goes against the statute of limitations, which, is the reason why it's so hotly contested and why it's probably going to continue to be a heavily litigated issue. So the number one mistake, and it's very similar to the personal injury, is late notice. People, and sometimes not to the fault of the policyholder, because imagine, let's say you have storm damage, okay? Not even hurricane damage, but storm damage. And, you have some sort of a breach in your roof. And who goes up on their roof to check, your
Right.
tiles and your tab shingles? Nobody does that. So let's say you have a breach in your roof that you didn't know about, and there's a major storm event, and the water, infiltrates the roof and goes down, through your walls and whatever. And sometimes that damage isn't readily, you can't exhibit that damage right away. Sometimes it doesn't
Right.
exhibit itself until, several months later, or maybe it's exhibiting in a room that you don't ever hang out in or go to. Maybe it's a guest room. And so sometimes, to no fault of the policyholder, they, report the claim once they see the damage. And unfortunately, that may not be until months and months later. And so the insurance companies will send an adjuster, and unless, the water damage looks really fresh,
Right.
meaning if it hasn't, molded yet or what have you, then they'll automatically say, this is either pre-existing damage, or this is damage that happened over a period of time, or you didn't report the damages timely. So that is the number one biggest dinger against, my policyholder clients.
Right. No,
Second biggest one, by the way, is no one takes any pictures of anything.
Right.
right.
We all got iPhones now. We all got
Yeah.
Androids. It's
Right.
simple to take a quick video or a quick picture of what's going on at your house, and not enough people realize it, because, and I get it. People are like, oh my God, this is happening. Oh, let's stop and take my, phone out and take a picture. But it's so important. It helps the case so much if you do.
And that actually lends itself to a big point that goes in conjunction with that. And that is, I always tell people, if it doesn't exist in writing, it doesn't exist at all. Likewise with photographic or videographic evidence. And here's the best story. So one of my clients had severe hail damage. And the insurance company had the audacity to deny that there was any hail activity that day, and therefore denied the claim. Well, thank God my client was amazing and had it all captured on video. And I remembered that day because I was actually standing in Justin's doorway, and he happened to be talking to the opposing counsel that he happened to get along with. And the opposing counsel was like, listen, man, I want to try to settle this case with you, but, we don't believe there's any hail damage. And Justin said, oh, hold on one second. And he uploaded the video and he emailed it to the opposing counsel.
Right.
And immediately he said, shit. All right, let me go get some authority and I'll get your client paid.
Right.
Because otherwise we had nothing to prove it other than my client's word against the insurance company. So
Right. And I guess even looking at, you talked about hurricanes earlier, and obviously you guys are in Florida, so there's pretty prevalent. So even, I'm going to say even the personal property in the house and things like that, if people aren't taking pictures of that, they can be denied. It's like, oh yeah, I had a big, 85-inch, colored TV on the wall. It's like, well, not that we can see.
Right.
Obviously, because it could have been washed away type thing. So I'm assuming, that would be more advice that you would give to people 100%. Is kind of,
I always thought to be a paper hoarder.
Right.
Just keep every piece of paper that you can think of. It is in this, it's so easy in this day and age where you can cam scan your papers and, everything is paperless. The more documents you keep, especially communications with you and your mortgage company, your insurance company, your insurance agent, that's super, super important.
Right.
And really, if with hurricanes coming, you have normally some time before the storm. It's always a great time to just take a picture or video of your house and what was in it, what it looked like beforehand. So it's easy to show the insurance company, well, you don't think anything happened? This is what it looked like 3 days ago, and this is what it looks like now.
Right.
And it's really helpful.
Yeah. It was here 3 days ago, and it's not today.
Right.
Pretty clear. What, in trying to educate people, where is the best place for somebody to go to try to, if they've been in an accident or if they've had, damage to their house, where's the kind of the best place to go? Because not everybody's going to go to their insurance agent, or the agent may not even want to, I don't want to say they don't want to help, but they get bonused off of, lost
Correct.
runs and stuff
I didn't
like
want to
that.
say that. I'm glad you
Oh,
did, but
I mean, yeah,
that's
but I
certainly
mean, so where is a good place to try to get educated on what your rights are and stuff like that without, having to go through your policy, which, I'm sure most people, if they start reading that policy, they're, falling asleep, 2 minutes into it.
Well, we're certainly always available, and it's something that we're doing a major push on social media. I post 2 to 3 times a week of, the different pitfalls and, the scams and the games that the insurance companies play. So, I try to think of all of the different issues that I come across, and that's what actually fuels my content on a weekly basis. Is I'm so active in all of my cases that the moment I come up with, I'm dealing with a certain issue, I'm like, this is something I need to educate the public on. And obviously, at the end of this podcast, I'm happy to give, our information, but we're very active on social media. On putting out content that educates the public on what they should do in so many different situations in dealing with claims, their insurance policies, stuff like that.
Right. What are, kind of go back to you, Justin, because we were talking about the car accident earlier. So if somebody were to get into a car accident, do you have a quick, 3-step, 5-step type thing for somebody to, to do to make sure that they're protecting themselves?
Yeah, as I said, call the police, go to the ER, and then give me a call. Those are the biggest things. And one of the biggest things is don't sign anything with the insurance company. Sometimes after an accident, actually not sometimes, a lot of times, if they know you haven't gotten a lawyer yet, which is why it's actually very important to get a lawyer, what they do is they go, oh, we see that you were in an accident. Yes, our insured was at fault. If you just sign here, we can get you a check out for $25. They really mislead them. It could be like $2,500, and the case is worth maybe $50,000. And people sign their rights away right away because these insurance adjusters to the insurance company really are creative and in the way that they, explain it to the, potential client or the one that was hurt. So, you don't really want to bother us. It's going to be long and drawn out if you don't want to take this money. So don't sign anything that the insurance company gives you right away. Always contact the lawyer.
Right. So in talking about that, I mean, obviously, you guys have both worked on kind of both sides of this. You guys do a lot of education, stuff like that. But again, like you said, laws are different in each state. If somebody, because again, there's not all professionals aren't created equal.
Right.
What's the best way to go about finding that right attorney to help you?
That's a great question.
Really, really great question. Word of mouth. If you happen to see an advertisement or any type of marketing, look them up, Google them, the same way that you would find if oftentimes people will just hire a friend or a neighbor, somebody that they know and they trust, but that person may not specialize in that specific area. So I can't tell you how many times we've actually inherited cases from somebody saying, oh, well, you know what, my neighbor who's a lawyer, but he does transactional work, was trying to help me. And I'm like, oh God. And then I get this mess of a case. So, if you see an advertisement, which is a common way that a lot of people, hire lawyers, just make sure you also vet them. I mean, there's no 100% fail-proof way of landing that, all-star counsel.
Yeah, but also I think it's really important. Make sure you're able to talk to the attorney.
Yes.
Okay. Because there are so many of these large firms now and big firms that you'll get a paralegal or a secretary, and you'll not even for intake, you won't even get introduced to the lawyer.
Right.
At least, if you want to be able to talk to your attorney, you should be able to, no matter how big your firm is.
Right.
And I see a lot of issues with that people contact me. They're going, I can't get in touch with my lawyer. And I've always prided myself on my accessibility whenever I started my firm, 13 years ago. And I talk to my clients. I know who my clients are. I have a lot of clients, but I have a general idea of what's going on in each of their cases at all times. And I can have an intelligent conversation with all my clients. And a lot of lawyers can't do that these days.
Right. And that's pretty telling. If a lawyer isn't available for an introductory phone call, that's gonna, that it's a potential new client, that's pretty telling.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
and to, along the same lines though, and this is something that I do pride ourselves, even though we are a growing law firm, I always said to my husband, I don't want to grow beyond a certain number of attorneys because I never want to lose the personal, connection with my clients, because that ultimately, your clients are the most important. They are the most important people, even after the case is over, because, your clients, if you establish a really great relationship, can be your biggest supporters, cheerleaders, and greatest referral sources. And so we never want to grow too big because we always want to continue to keep that relationship and the connection. And I feel like, the bigger that the firms grow, things get handed down to, maybe lawyers that aren't as experienced, and nobody wants to spend the time to train and teach and mentor anymore. So you don't know who the heck is handling your case. At our firm, we're the two principals and we're involved in every single aspect of our cases. So.
Right. I think that's, really the difference between it being transactional. And that's something that there are, as things get bigger and bigger and bigger, everything tends to be more of a transaction because, they need to do that, push it down as far as I can, bill as high as I can. And that's in a lot of our profession. So it's not just with the attorneys.
Right.
What have I not asked you guys that you wish I had? I mean, that's probably pretty wide there, but
I'm gonna bring up one thing. It's not really a mistake or a pitfall, but it's a preconceived notion that a lot of people, a lot of clients I have when they hire an attorney. Attorneys, we are in a adversarial business where we have to sue and fight against another side. And a lot of people just believe that I've hired a lawyer. That means I'm entitled to money and I'm going to win. And we have to explain to everybody, you have a lawyer. We are going to fight for you as hard as we can, but there is no guarantee that we will, make a recovery for you. We'll do the best we can, but the only thing that's guaranteed in life is death and taxes.
Right.
So you getting a big settlement, not a guarantee. So, clients still need to be constantly reminded of that just because you have a lawyer doesn't mean you're going to win your case.
And I actually just did a post on that. I told, because every professional out there, has a very, very different style of how they engage with prospective clients. Right. And what I see often, and I don't know what's going on in other jurisdictions, but here in the state of Florida, you hear nightmare stories. You have competitors that you may respect, your competitors that you may not respect. Right. Yep. And I did a post recently where I said, if a lawyer promises you any of the above, which is how much they're going to get you, if they're guaranteeing you a win, or if they're guaranteeing you or telling you how long the lawsuit is going to take, you better run the other way. Yeah. Everybody focuses on the sell, but nobody focuses on the service anymore. And so everybody to get the sale or to get the client, they'll make every verbal promise under the sun. And then when it comes down to it, where nobody can ever prove, well, you told me that it was going to be, a 6-month litigation. Yeah. As a lawyer, wouldn't we all wish that our lawsuits could, settle in 6 months? Right. But the truth of the matter is, you never know. And so what I want the public to understand is that there's so many moving parts in litigation. You have a judge, you have an opposing counsel, you have an adjuster that works for the insurance company, you have the insurance company that has its own culture, You have a reserve system of how it is that they pay out claims, which has nothing to do, and it's not personal to you as the plaintiff. You have your own lawyer. You have other variables that nobody can control. That's all working to dictate how something is going to go. Likewise, if you go to trial, add on top of everything that I've mentioned, 6 strangers who've never met you that are ultimately deciding your case.
Right.
So if any lawyer with all those variables in play can guarantee you a win, how much or how long, you better run the other way if anybody's making those promises to you.
Right. That's just like if I do somebody's tax return, I guarantee him, oh yeah, I'll get you a refund. And it's like, I wish it was that easy.
Right.
So if people like what they hear and they want to reach out to you guys, or they want to be able to watch your blogs and stuff like that, how can they reach out to you guys?
www.cernitzlaw.com, CERNITZ law.com is our website. Our phone number here at the office is 305-370-3255. What's our social media?
And we can check out our social media handles. We have a Cernitz Law Instagram, TikTok, Justin Cernitz, Candice Chambron, Ron, all those social media things.
Instagram, Facebook,
and it's
YouTube.
just our name, so it's easy.
Our first and last names are our handles for our personal, and then Cernitz Law will always be the handle on our business accounts.
Great. Guys, I really appreciate your time, really appreciate the wisdom. I think that the listeners today are getting a lot out of this, and at least it helps them go in the right direction if they have a tragic issue like this to deal with.
Thank you so much for having us, Gary. This is a lot of fun. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Sure.
This is great.
This week, our guests were Justin and Candice with Cernitz Law. I will see you guys next week.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.